Good evening, and you're watching Point Blank here at KTN News. And we're shooting from the Nairobi Serena. The icon, Nelson Mandela, in his book, The Long Walk to Freedom, recounted how, over the years of fighting for apartheid, against apartheid, South Africa had to take difficult decisions. Is Kenyatta and Odinga tracing the footsteps of their father? And is Waiguru a change agent? Governor, in terms of a meeting held at the Breeze Hotel in Embu, the Minister for Agriculture, Mwangi Kiunjuri, and Dwiga and company assembled quite an array of Mount Kenya. I think the number was 38 members of parliament. Openly defying the party whip, defying Kenyatta's message at the Bombers of Kenya of bringing people together, dismantling groups and so forth. Do you think that Mwangi Kiunjuri, who is said to be eyeing the deputy position to William Ruto, is up in the stakes? Is he really going for Kenyatta in Mount Kenya? And Waiguru, this is point blank.
I think it's very obvious that he seems to have some ambitions. However, I think at this point in time, they are very misplaced because he is a cabinet secretary who is not supposed to be political, for one. Secondly, Tony, the other thing that I have said is that it's unfortunate that they would issue press conferences of things that concern him, which are on his desk to address. I think matters to do with agriculture, which is really ailing Mount Kenya region. Right now, our biggest cry about tea and coffee fall under his docket. And so he cannot go calling press conference. What he's supposed to be doing is sitting in his office, making sure we have the right policies and ensuring he's engaging parliament to pass bills to resolve our problems. And so sitting there and having conversations about BBI is not his place, really.
So I must ask you, Governor, is our president weak? Because if his minister is defying him on the face, because it's the second or third time that Uhuru has lamented in the public in his mother tongue. He did so at Kasarani, in Kikuyu. He did it the other day. People are beginning to feel nostalgic. Why is Kenyatta telling us these issues? Is he unable to act? So I'm putting it to you point blank. Is the president weak? Is he unable to reel in not just Mount Kenya rebellion, but his own cabinet secretary?
In my view, I think the president is too tolerant. That's what I think. I think he's too tolerant. And he needs to stop being a good person. He needs to stop it because it's only working against him. You cannot employ and assign a cabinet minister a task and then he goes and issues a press conference to the public on the same issue complaining. He's basically saying he's not able to do his job, right? Even forget the issue of disrespect. I think it was very ill-advised. I know he really wants to advance himself as being a successor, but that's not the way to do it. And that's why you see I'm actually, even myself, completely, and many other leaders. And let me tell you something else, Tony, you've not noticed. You haven't heard governors talking. They're quiet. And many, many leaders are quiet. People are watching, and they're listening. And they're asking the same thing. Is this the Minister of Agriculture talking about the problems in coffee in a press conference? You know,
this is very interesting.
So the issue is not...
Mheshimiwa, this is interesting. Yeah. Are you saying that in specific terms, particularly in the Mount Kenya region, that governors are quiet?
They are quiet.
Are you saying still waters run deep?
Still waters run deep. And not only governors. You know, MPs are not the only elected people. They're also MCAs. There are people out there who actually every day are having to deal with these challenges of that coffee and tea every single day. Every day complaints. And they're watching and asking the same question. I've had people asking me, is this the minister discussing the same, I mean, is this supposed to be on that side or is it supposed to be resolving the issue? So to answer your question, the president is not weak. I think the president is very tolerant. I think he's very tolerant. But you know there's a place your tolerance and your goodness can start costing him his own reputation. And he needs to look at himself in the mirror and take very tough decisions. Very tough decisions. And correct it, because these problems we're having can be corrected. They're not infinite. They're not impossible. If he has incompetent people, he should get rid of them.
Waiguru, I want to ask you this, and there's a feeling among people in central Kenya that Kenyatta has a debt, that President Kenyatta owes William Ruto after they went to the Hague together and the Jubilee government was born of the ICC, that Ruto is being cheated, that Ruto was there for Uhuru, and somehow Uhuru is betraying Ruto. Let me put it to you this way. Is that going to be something that Kenyatta must address? Because if you go to Mount Kenya and wonder who opened the door for Ruto to Mount Kenya region, and who now is the one turning on Kenyatta within his own region. And remember, Ruto is not campaigning anywhere else. It is in Mount Kenya against his boss, the president. What does that tell you?
And thank you, Tony, for saying that, because now that completely distinguishes now why some of us have taken the stand that we have taken. You know, it's very unfortunate. Yes, within the party there could have been the promise of support. But you know, we don't live in a vacuum. You know, we don't live in a vacuum. As I've said, this country is bigger than Central Kenya. This country is bigger than Central Kenya. This country has the coast. This country has Eastern. It has Northeastern. It has Western. It has Nyanza. I mean, it's not about just the two communities. And that's why this BBI issue has come. Because we must start recognizing that this country belongs to 47 million Kenyans. Not just a small group of us, a privileged few, no. And you can't
Governor,
promise.
this is interesting.
Let me finish, Tony.
Yes,
Let me finish.
yes.
So you can promise because you have good intentions that I will support you. But you know, at the end of the day, it's the people who will decide. He can decide to support him and people rebel. And even if the people, a certain group of people support, let's say a group of people in Mount Kenya support, what if the rest of the country rebel? Will he become president? Can he become president with only Mount Kenya and a section of Rift, or Rift Valley and a section of Mount Kenya? It's not possible. And so when we are talking, let's have these candid conversations as leaders. And let's not get intimidated by people and be threatened. And so everybody cows in a corner thinking, what will happen to me? This country must start expanding our democratic space and must ask the hard questions. And that is why I have said we are standing at a moment of a new dawn, a new beginning. Whatever we had said before will have to change, including even what Ruto had promised whoever.
So I'm asking, I have to ask you a pertinent question arising from something you've said. Yeah. It's a very interesting way of looking at it. You're saying that the arithmetic that Ruto was looking at previously was that of two communities. Mm-hmm. So this BBI is increasing the space. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about an expansion of the executive. Mm-hmm. Does that distort some people's arithmetic?
It will definitely distort people's arithmetic. But in my view, by the way, if I was him, I'd be happy. Because it makes work a lot easier to work with more people than fewer. You know, when he should be happy. I don't know why his troops, especially the ones in Central Kenya, make a lot of noise. Because I do not see, and I have said it many times, even he keeps saying that this is not about tribalism, but it's about regional and inclusion. And you know, people come from certain regions, and you have to mention those regions. So in my view, other than the issue of just the expansion of the top, because the BBI is not just about expansion of the top, it's about making Kenya stay cohesive, so that we go to an election and we don't have the run-ins that we had in 2017 and the chaos that we had in 2007. Because many people...
But before we go to another subject, you know, your friend Baba has got half the country, and you know that. He's outside Mount Kenya. Yes. He's got the other side. So I can understand why the deputy would be concerned, because obviously there is certain... Baba has a certain constituency. And so...
And you cannot ignore it, you know, and that's a fact. You see, this is what we're saying. We attempted to ignore it. This country almost broke into pieces. And it's not about individuals. It's just the reality. You cannot govern a country where half the country feels that they have been left out. You cannot. Even if you want to, Who doesn't want exclusive power? Everybody would want if you're in a political leadership. But will you be able to govern? No. And so you cannot ignore the fact that there is a leader who's followed by half a country. You cannot ignore that. You cannot also ignore that there are other communities in this country that also want at some point to feel that even if I'm not in leadership now, that I can get into leadership in the future, that it will not be a preserve of those communities. And by the way, Tony, please don't forget I'm a Kikuyu. You know, I should be actually on the other side saying it is us, you know, and it is us who are going to govern. But it's not sustainable. And any prudent leader, anyone worth their salt as a leader, anyone who deserves to lead in this country should be able to accept it. And I think that is why they reached a point they saw if this document goes down to the people will actually support BBI because it is looking at things that will change our fundamental fabric and make this country a lot more stable, a lot more peaceful, and also increase our democratic space and give other community the feeling of ownership, that I am a Kenyan. I am a Kenyan even if I come from Isiolo. I'm a Kenyan even if I come from the corner in Turkana. I am a Kenyan. I'm as much a Kenyan as that Kikuyu in central Kenya. And that is why this BBI has to pass.
So are you saying as a Mount Kenya leader, you would see BBI as a way of reuniting? Are you seeing it
in fact,
as a,
this BBI is
a means to an end?
This will reunite us. You know, Tony, this will also make Mount Kenya people acceptable to the rest of the country. We don't want to be living in a country where people look at us and think we are always, yeah. We want to feel included by Luos. We want to feel included by Turkanas, by Somalis, by Costarians. We want to feel included. We want to feel part of this country because we cannot exist in isolation like an island. And that's why I urge our leaders. And when we're done with this, things will change. Tony.
Governor, I've heard that you've been having some secret meetings. You know, and this is point blank, as caucuses of governors. Is it true?
Well, amongst ourselves, we have been having conversations. And this is the conversation we've been having. We've been having a conversation of what role can we play as leaders to make sure that we give this country the best foundation going forward. What is the role that we come? How can we unite our regions? What is it that I need to do? What is it that you need to do from where you sit? And so we've been having conversations, yes, and of like-minded leaders from different parts of this country.
For Kenyans to know, in point blank, among who are the like-minded governors? Let me
not mention them. I think you have seen us with them. You have seen us together. We've been talking. You don't really need to be told and sent every picture when we meet, but we're talking, and it's going to be different. And let me move away even from the issue of the national seats. Look at the issue of gender, Tony. I mean, for how long will we attempt to get this just minimum 1/3 gender rule through? We tried it through Bunge, it didn't work. We've tried it through all means, it hasn't worked. Finally, this document is giving us a solution. And then we gave our views. We said, this is, I think, the way we can attempt to resolve this issue once and for all. Look at the issue of alternative gender, you know, because every home has a man and a woman somewhere. If it's not your mother, it is your sister, it is your daughter. I mean, and we're taking them to the same schools, we're taking the young men. We should be able to provide an equal platform for the women as we do for the men. So
Governor, I wanted to ask you about women because language in politics has become, of recent times, very concerning. There is a very foul language that is coming from senior women leaders, and it's becoming not only habitual, it is almost glorified.
It's not glorified, Tony. It isn't. It is not glorified. And it's unfortunate again. And that's why when campaigns start, we will tell people, look at the fruits. Are these the leaders that we want? These ones who use this foul language, who insult? Is that what you elected them to do? I mean, they can entertain people by calling people all manner of names, but is that the caliber of leaders that we want? And that's why we have even proposed this change in the way that we are going to be taking names, party lists for elections, so that we don't get into this situation where the caliber of leadership is questionable in terms of even just normal ethics. You know, we cannot be having conversations and insults that you do not want to your children to hear every single day out there in rallies, like we have no respect. Some people even push it as far as saying them in religious institutions like churches. It's unacceptable, Tony. And with this, again, BBI, what people don't know about party lists, there will also be a process of ensuring that we are sieving, you know, the kind of leaders that we put out there. And let's put people, even if it is women who can hold their own amongst men, right? Women who can hold their own amongst men, so that it is not a privilege of a few being given tokens. Women who are going to come and represent people, and people feel represented. They can govern. Women who can be president, and this country has them, Tony. There are very many distinguished people. But when we lower politics to that level, the distinguished people will not want to get in. So we miss out as a country to get good leaders because of this environment which we make very toxic and very disrespectful and really...
So, Governor, shifting gears forward, there has been a political attack. You know, in the beginning of the year, there was serious political attack that 4 cabinet secretaries had been accused of plotting to kill the deputy president. So much so that an official in his office is now facing the court, Ola Itumbi. And since then, these 2 last week, there has been a sustained attack by the Tanga Tanga group on the civil service, on people who are working for His Excellency, the President. And I know you have talked about Kiunjuri and what you have advised Uhuru. But to the extent that really the Deputy President and his troops are verbally and directly attacking the officials of the civil service and government, I just sometimes wonder, where are Kenyatta's defenders? Where are you?
You know, we don't want to get to a place where it's a shouting match. You know, you can also get people to also attack on this other side. We don't want to get there. This is what I said. If the Deputy President is condemning any minister for talking the way they do, I think he needs to start with his troops. That's what I said. And I said it in one of the stations early this week. He needs to start with his troops. They're the ones who call people names. They're the ones who insult people. We've never heard him telling them that, please, your language is unacceptable. You know, you need to tone down on your insults. You need to be a little bit more respectful to the head of state. We haven't heard. But the CS Matiang'i goes and says one thing, one small thing, and everybody lands on him. He's not a politician, you know, and he cannot be now subjected to a shouting match between him and a group of members of parliament, because eventually you continue that route.
So what would be your message to the Deputy President and his troops on that issue?
I think let us lead by example. Let us lead by example. Let us lead by example. Let us start with the people around you. Let the hubris end with the people around you. Let them stop chest thumping. Let them stop insulting. Let them address the president with the respect that he deserves, because he's the head of state and the unifying figure at this point in time in this country. And let us also respect the people that the president has put in office and given them a mandate to do their duty. And let us support them and resolve,
when the Deputy President is saying
the problems,
that the problems of this country are Matiang'i and Kibicho. You know, I'm asking specifically. I've heard you on Uhuru. But there is a specific issue where the second in command of a country is telling the people who work for him.
I think, Tony, the only thing I can say, it's unfortunate. That is all I can say. It's really, really unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
Now, then, in shifting gears a bit further, I wanted to talk to you about the post-bombers situation. Now that the report is out there, etc., you are talking about going around the whole country and so forth. In terms of the preparation for the next elections, there's been a lot of talk that the IBEC is something that may need to be looked at before 2022. Sitting where you sit and with the Prime Minister and the people you are talking to in terms of the committee of experts or so on who are going to polish the final document, is the IBC going to be a center in those discussions? Is
document,
to
the
reform it before 2022?
If you look at the document, it actually talks about institutional changes, and one of those that must be looked at is the IEBC. And there've been proposals that have been put out there, but I think more than that is what also the country would want to see that institution looking like. Our proposal is, for example, that we devolve the functions of the IEBC to the county level so that elections are governed at that level, which again, we will wait to hear what the public thinks once they're educated what the implications of that are. The issue of credible elections is one of the things that we cannot compromise on going forward. And yes, IEBC must be looked into, and how it will be structured and how we will run elections the next election cycle coming is a big question.
I'm asking that, Governor, because each of you who are caucusing now are going to go back and see what can be done or improved or prioritized. Are you undertaking as Waiguru that you can assure Kenyans watching you now in their millions that the IBC issue is close to your heart, and that issue of these arguments of elections and credit, could you, because it seems to every 5 years this country
precisely, if anyone who listens to me can hear that I'm not just talking for the sake of talking. I believe in what I am saying. And one of the things that we have said we will change in our democratic processes is institutions, and that institution includes IEBC. It has to be changed. It has to be reformed. It must be reformed because if it is not reformed, even if you do all these other changes, you will not be able to achieve the outcome that you want, which is going to be one of the things that come in the future when we're done with the elections, a credible election. You don't want to go through an election which is disputed because of the institution that is IEBC, and that must be looked into.
Okay, now Wanjiko champion or self-declared champion Moses Kuria of Gatundu South has become now the next man fighting the president hailing from Gatundu. Anne, what is Kuria's agenda? Do you understand it?
I think, in my view, he wants to. He's also wanting to throw his hat in the race, and I think he's also checking his popularity. But again, as I said, it's unfortunate.
Are you serious, President Moses Kuria, Waiguru?
Well, it's his democratic rights. I think mine is not so much to discuss whether credible or not. I think the issue is, the unfortunate thing is that you would approach it this way. You know, that's the unfortunate thing. That the unfortunate thing is to think that I will get up by pulling the president down. It's unfortunate because they will cheat you. They will cheer you when you say some entertaining thing. The day the ballot will be cast, you'll be in shock. You will be in shock because unfortunately for him, he comes from the backyard of the president. It's very unfortunate because there is no way they will turn against their own. It's even if you sustain hatred, the day the truth comes out, it will boomerang on him. And it's very nobody, if you remember, even in the last election, like in Kirinyaga, the reason they were all voted out is because people said these people are always insulting and abusing, and so we don't want them, let's get new leaders. And it was one statement. Did you elect these people to insult? Did you elect these people? Have they helped you? Because bottom line, it won't just be about the president. It will also be about him. It will be about me as Governor Waiguru. What have you done for us? Have you resolved our problems? And people will shift. You will have entertained them for 3 years, but that day push comes to shove, you will be shocked what the people will do.
Well, you're watching Pointblank here at KTN News. Kirinyaga Governor today is punching Ruto, Moses Kuria Kiunjuri. She's holding nothing back. You're watching KTN News.